What's up guys? Join me for a post-shift pull-focused functional workout. Give you guys a little bit of an idea of what a session looks like after shift. So just finished the warm-up there on the assault bike. I shoot for around 5 minutes. The idea here is just to get the heart rate up, warm the body up. It's a beautiful negative 15 degrees here in Canada in my garage, so I want to make sure the body's ready to move. So now that that's complete, we're gonna work on a little mobilization of the upper body, thoracic spine, just to make sure everything's ready to move, and then kind of rock and roll from there. So we'll throw in some tidbits throughout the workout, you know, my approach to training after shift and things along those lines. So let's get stuck into it. So we got our foam roller here. I think anyone that trains should have one of these. Not only is it good for some soft tissue work, but it's really good for some things like this. So basically, we're just gonna work, because we're working our upper body today. We wanna make sure that we mobilize the thoracic spine kind of before we get moving. If the T-spine or the thoracic spine isn't moving effectively, usually it's the low back that has to compensate. So in order to make sure that our body's ready to move, for the movements that we have planned ahead, we just wanna make sure that everything's warmed up and mobile. So basically the first thing I wanna do here, give yourself a little bit of hug. We're gonna start kind of at the base of your rib cage, and then work our way up, and we're just gonna kind of open up on the roller and then back up, and then move down and kind of segmentally work through the spine. Find those spots that might be a little stiff, hang out there, and basically, like I said, we're just trying to mobilize that upper back and make sure that everything is good to go. A lot of people find that they'll get here and they'll feel super restricted. That is probably an indication that this kind of work would be beneficial for you. Again, if our hips aren't moving, if our thoracic spine doesn't move, a lot of times the low back takes the brunt of that. So it's definitely something that we want to make sure we implement and really allow the body to move and operate optimally. You get a little bit of an adjustment or a pop or a crack, that's totally normal. Beautiful. So now that it kind of works through that, next thing we're gonna do is a little cat-cow again. You wanna imagine that you're segmentally from the base of your spine all the way up to your head, kind of mobilizing that structure. So as we inhale, we're gonna arch, bend forward, head comes up. Exhale, head comes down, and then kind of work your way down like a wave, pushing through the floor, rounding through that back. Inhale, head goes up. Exhale, back down. Shooting for about 5 to 10 of these, nice and slow. A lot of people who are really stiff will find that they'll have a really hard time moving parts of their back independently. They'll kind of all want to move together. Again, that's a pretty good indication that this is something you should be doing more of. Awesome. So next thing, now to work a little rotation in the thoracic spine, we're going to kind of stay in this all fours position. We're going to imagine that we're reaching through, feel good stretch in that upper back. I'm trying to get up to that 12 o'clock position. Try to make sure that most of the movement is happening about the back, not about the hips. And again, 5 to 10 per side here. Other side down. Beautiful. So, like I said, heart rate is up there, our body's feeling good. We're gonna kind of get stuck into our first movements. My approach usually when starting a workout is You don't want to go 0 to 100 too quick. I kind of want to slowly ease into things. So we're going to start here with a little pull down. So from the standing position, I'm going to hinge forward slightly. We're going to reach for that cable, keeping that back nice and flat. Trying not to arch the back. I want all the length and mobility to be coming from the lats, because again, we're almost treating like this like an extension of our warm up. So I just want to make sure that those lats are really nice and opened up and kind of ease in from there, and then we'll slowly dial up the intensity as we go. So feet shoulder apart, hinging at the hips, reaching overhead, good stretch in those lats, driving down, squeezing that back. Really working that kind of mind muscle connection for these first few sets, just as I open everything up and kind of get the body primed and ready to move. Keeping things on the lighter side, and then we'll start to increase as we go. And again, I'm trying to make sure all the mobility is coming from my lats, not my back arching and reaching. So 12 to 15 of these on the lighter side, and then we'll increase the weight for set number 2. Awesome. So next, again, just to kind of prime the core and the nervous system, we're gonna do a little suitcase march. So working some core strength, stability. The nice fun part is we're just gonna add a little band. So what the band's gonna do is it's gonna kind of make that load a little bit more unstable and dynamic, which is really gonna force our body, our nervous system, our core to adapt. And again, the idea at the beginning here is we just wanna get everything turned on, everything fired up. Long night at work, a little groggy, a little sluggish in the morning, so we wanna get the body rocking and rolling. So I got a band doubled up here. I'm gonna go up to the suitcase orientation. You can see how the kettlebell is already bouncing around. We're just gonna do 10 nice and slow per side. We can do these all day long like this. I want nice, slow, controlled reps, really having to foster some stability and get that body to work. So again, just 10 per side, switching to the other side, same thing. Driving the knee up, getting that leg level with the ground, alternating side to side. 5 more. One thing I really like about these unilateral exercises, you're gonna feel that one side is a lot stronger than the other. So a lot of times, naturally as human beings, if you're right hand dominant, if we grab the groceries, we pick up items, we use our right hand, meaning the left side of our body is probably really strong because it's having to compensate for that load on the opposite side. When we switch things over to our left hand, you might notice that that right side of the low back is having to work a little extra because it's not as strong and developed as the other side. So, as I mentioned, getting into set number 2, just with all the sessions I do, this session is no expectation. We're working fast just to elevate that heart rate and ultimately work some endurance as well as functional strength. So we increase the weight here. Now we're gonna shoot for another kind of 12 to 15 reps, see how things are feeling, and rock and roll from there. Really focus on extend and squeeze, imagining that there's a shoulder blade, a pencil between those shoulder blades, squeezing, driving with the elbows. Smart squeeze. Good extension over top. Bump that up again for our top set. Hopping right into the next movement for this superset. Like with any exercise, I want to make sure if I started on my right side last time that we're going to start on the left side this time. Slow march. You can see that band adds a little chaos, making things a little bit more difficult, which is exactly what we're after. Feet, ankles, everything's having to working to stabilize and accommodate for that unsteady load. Other side now. Really working the nervous system as well. We're training what's referred to as proprioception, meaning as this weight bounces around, moves around, our nervous system has to compensate for that movement, which is gonna make us stronger and our body more resilient and kind of unpredictable movements that happen in day-to-day life, especially if you work at the firefighter. Nothing about our job is predictable. Beautiful. Feeling good. Easing into things here. I know, guys, I understand, like after a shift, sometimes training, lifting, it's like the last thing you wanna do. I promise you, you're gonna feel so much better after this. So getting into the last set, we got the stack here maxed out. And as we go here, intensity is increasing. The body's ready to rock and roll, so we're gonna get what it wants. Shouldn't have cheaped out, should have got the 200-pound stack, because the 150 isn't quite enough sometimes. That being said, if you change your rep tempo, really approach the set with intention, you can make less weight definitely work for you. Whew. Easing into things here. Last set of these, again, alternating the side you start on. Beautiful. A lot of you ask me, what is your approach to training after shift? I think it all depends. Just like in our world, in the world of first response, nothing is black and white. There's a ton of gray. So if I have an absolutely brutal night the day before, if I'm up at a fire all night, I'm not gonna be doing max effort deadlifts. I'm not gonna be doing super high intensity efforts. I might treat that more as an active recovery day. If I have a typical night, like last night where, 3 or 4 runs after midnight, I got a little bit of sleep, I'm gonna, approach the session with some moderate effort, challenging myself, but not doing anything too crazy. So I think it's one of those things that's gonna be completely dependent on your current level of fitness, as well as the night you had. Just be smart, listen to your body. It's intuitively gonna tell you what it can and can't do, and you just need to try your best to listen to that message. I know I can be bad for it at times, but we're gonna hop into set number 2 here. So we're gonna do a little double kettlebell row. So hinging at the hips, nice spot back. We're gonna drive with the elbows, again, squeezing that back with those kettlebells, and then setting them back down from a dead stop, and then starting again. We're gonna shoot for 6 to 10, and then we're gonna superset that over on the turf with the ab wheels. So this is really great, not only an awesome back developer, but as we're in this bent over position, we're having to work a lot of spinal stability and core strength as well. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, one of my favorite movements here. Beautiful. And then hopping over directly into a movement here with the ab wheels. Obviously, working a ton of core strength here. I think one of the things that the ab wheel is often not looked at as a back developer, but as I go in this extended position, really working those lats, especially if I go nice and slow, eccentrically loading those lats lots of time under tension. It can be a great way of developing the core and the back at the same time. So I'm gonna shoot for 5 reps, but again, nice and slow, good stretch, opening up through the front of the body, and then coming back up. Keeping the core braced, good strength, and then back up. I said, you guys aren't feeling that in my lats, just like as anywhere else. Beautiful. Then we'll hop back over here, keeping rest intervals low, keeping that body working. We're about 20 minutes in, being effective with our time. I got some stuff I gotta do today, so just wanna keep the ball rolling here, start things on the right foot, and crush this day. I think one thing I go back over to is this idea of like how our training should mirror the things we experience in day-to-day life, experience on the job. A lot of times, you know, whether it's picking something up off the ground, lifting a patient up off the ground, twisting awkwardly to pick up your med bag or your monitor, the more we can kind of get strong in these positions, the more resilient we can make our spine, and we're gonna be so much better off. So again, really good over there for developing the back, but again, that core, those erectors are having to work overtime in order to stabilize my body. So when I have to do those movements in my job, we are built up in this area. A lot of times people will feel this movement in their low back because what they're getting is they're hyperextending through that low back, so they don't have the core strength and stability. So if you notice that, just limit your range of motion. You need to start here, that's totally okay. And then eventually we get farther out to the point where you can kind of get that belly all the way to the ground while maintaining neutral spine and ensuring everything's strongly supported in that low back. Nice 5 count, 3, 4, and then up. Beautiful. Set number 3. Again, the idea, just to keep things nice and easy, guys, I'll usually shoot for 3 to 4 sets of each exercise, maybe 4 or 5 working sets. I'll get near around the 30, 35, 40 minute mark, and that's perfect. I get so many comments online, people saying like, you know, do you maintain that size using mainly kettlebells? Pretty much, honestly. Everything you see here is basically what I use day to day, and it seems to work well for me. There's definitely a time in my life when I'm training more of like a bodybuilding style, but this stuff is perfect for my space, for my time, for my lifestyle, for my job, and it's really done well for me. Beautiful. And super quiet in here. That is not typical when I work out, so it's funny when I'm doing these videos for you guys. It's very, very silent here in the gym. When I'm training by myself, it is very much the opposite. So last set with the ab wheel here. That's the thing, the more you train, the more you develop that mind-muscle connection. On this rep, I can really focus on working the core. On this rep, I'm thinking lats, lats, lats. And I can really feel the tension in those lats. So this shit takes time. I've been training in some capacity for the last 15 plus years. So it doesn't happen overnight, but it'll happen for you guys, I can promise. So next we're gonna get into a little bird dog row. So this is our traditional bird dog position. Basically what this movement is that kind of anti-rotation stabilization position on steroids. So we're really gonna take it up a notch. I would consider this more of an advanced movement. I think for you guys, it's always good to draw parallels with training or movement that you've done in the past. So I'm gonna give you an example of that. So a lot of us in the past have done like a bench supported row, like such. Again, that is beneficial. We are working our back, but the bench is supplying so much of that stability. With that double bent over row, nothing is holding up my upper body except the musculature of my back. So again, really working some core strength. So that's why, you know, movements like this can be so much more beneficial. We're gonna take it up one more notch further. We're gonna go into that bird dog position, but we're gonna now add a row component. So again, you will feel everything from head to toe is having to work overtime to create that stability to row from there. So this movement, again, very, very challenging, but gonna develop a ton of strength in the back, and also that whole core is gonna, you know, get bulletproof because of it. So we're gonna stabilize from here, neutral spine. And you can see the shaking. That is because every muscle in my body is having to work. So for that, that's challenging. 6 reps there with a 53-pound kettlebell. My body's working. So for that, 6 to 10 reps max is kind of the happy place. Other side, same thing. Everything's on, glutes on, core engaged. Beautiful. Now moving on to our second movement, I think one thing that I stress or communicate with a lot of the supersets I do is sometimes, or a lot of the time, they are complementary to the movement I'm doing here. So the next we're gonna get into a side plank position, but we're gonna add in a little row. That's gonna be 2 things. The row is gonna add, again, some instability. The core is really gonna have to work, and then we're gonna develop the back as well at the same time, which again, similar movement to here, another rowing movement. So it's kind of like doing a drop set. If you've ever done a workout in the past where you do a couple reps with a really heavy weight, drop it to a lighter weight, we're doing 2 different movements, but kind of the same philosophy there. So just being able to push the muscle a little farther into fatigue just because we're dropping the weight and intensity just a touch. So opposed to just doing a traditional side plank, that is an awesome core exercise. Now we're adding this row component. So adding an element of instability, but also working the back. We're gonna do 10 per side. I challenge you guys to take mental inventory of what side feels easier. I know for sure, because I'm right-handed, I played hockey for a lot of years, that left side of my body, because I shot right-handed, is super developed. This always feels way easier than that other side. Beautiful. And this is the thing, is like, again, you look at like, we are doing functional movements with kettlebells and doing things that are a little bit more atypical compared to, typical bodybuilding style movements. But you can see, like, obviously we got a pump going, we're working those muscles in a similar fashion, still applying these hypertrophy principles, just under kind of a different stimulus, a different setting. So don't think because you're training functionally that you can't get big and strong as well. So similar to a lot of the other movements, we start on the right side, therefore this time we're gonna start on that left side. If you're a black belt in this movement, I showed this in one of my last videos. Ideally, I should be strong enough to stabilize the hips, the spine, that I should be able to balance this ball in my low back while doing that. So let's see what we can do here, AJ. So prime example of how much stability do I have to create to maintain that tabletop position while holding a 53-pound kettlebell on one side of my body. So that's the kind of stability that's gonna allow you to really be resilient and bulletproof in day-to-day life. Seems funny, seems weird. You wanna humble yourself, give that a try and let me know how it goes. So again, hopping back into this, starting with the opposite side. So my glutes are on. I should basically be able to draw a straight line from my ear to my ankle. So I don't wanna see this, I wanna see the butt sagging. I don't wanna see you in hyperextension. Nice straight line, all the way down the midline of my body, as well as down my ear right to my ankle. Stretch, 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 drive. Stretch, 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 drive with that elbow. Good stuff. Moving on to set number 3. It's very strange, as I mentioned, it's like negative 15 degrees out. My awesome camera guy behind the camera is probably absolutely freezing because I know that for sure because I'm not sweating. If I'm not sweating, you know something's wrong because I'm an absolute puddle most of the time when I work out. So that's the thing about these Canadian winters. I don't like it. When I'm running, I'm not sweating. When I'm training, I'm not sweating. I'm not used to that. So definitely prefer, I'll take 30 with 100% humidity over cold any day. That's the thing, guys, is with this stuff too, range of motion overweight any single day. I'd rather have you go a fourth of the weight and be able to get through that full range than be doing this, because the muscle, we should be operating and utilizing that muscle in its full range of motion. So again, full extension, nice stretch in that lat, drive that elbow, full extension, nice stretch in that lat. Move on to that other side, last 6 reps. Switching it up here. Even look how hard my bottom arm is having to work to create that stability. Really gripping that bench. So again, we took a very isolated movement and made it an amazing full body movement. People are going to trash functional fitness all day long. I've done powerlifting, I've done bodybuilding, I've done it all. At almost 30 years old, I feel better now than I did when I was 19, when I was training in that fashion. So say what you want, don't knock it till you try it. To each their own. Honestly, the fact that you're getting into the gym and prioritizing your health and wellness is amazing. So I'm not gonna trash any other modality. I think they're all great. Just as someone who's done everything, someone who also runs around 60 miles a week, this just seems to work the best for me. So take it with a grain of salt, but I love this. I love this way of training. I think this is how you're gonna see me in the gym for hopefully the next 100 years. I don't know, with development in modern science, I think I got 100 years left. AJ, what do you think, 129? Last 10. So hopping in to our last set here, or I think we might finish with some arms, and I might show you guys one of my favorite arm movements, just because again, we're doing pull focus, so we've been working a lot of biceps while we've been training, but there's one exercise I'd love to show you that kind of isolates those. So stay to the end. It's gonna build mobility and build the biceps, which is something you don't hear in the same sentence very often. One other thing I'd like to mention is a lot of people that I work with, a lot of the clients that I work with say, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. I'm just asking for 30 to 40 minutes of your time. And I promise that if you prioritize training and nutrition, it won't rob you of energy. It's gonna give you so much more energy. And you gotta do it for a couple weeks. You gotta make it a habit, but I promise you, prioritizing this stuff is gonna bleed into every aspect of your life. It's gonna allow you to show up as a better husband, father, wife, mother, brother, son. I can guarantee it. So again, physical fitness, physically, mentally, I cannot advocate for enough, especially among the first responder community. So hopping in to our last exercise, in my opinion, I think one of the best ways to develop the back is with time under tension. Some muscles, they really thrive off of heavier weight, lower reps. A lot of times I feel with the back especially, really focusing on a good extension, contraction is an amazing way to develop that back. Time under tension, eccentric loading, all that good fun stuff. So this superset, I promise you, it's gonna be very, very difficult and you're gonna be sore for probably 3 days. But this is one of my favorite ways to finish, especially now at the end of the workout that we've already kind of pre-fatigued the muscle. Really good finisher here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do an eccentric pull-up, meaning we're gonna jump up, we're gonna use momentum from our legs to get us in that top position of the pull-up, and then we're gonna go nice, slow 5 count on the way down. Again, one way to really target a muscle and force it to grow is through slow eccentrics. So as we go nice and slow down, time under tension, it's really gonna help stress and damage those muscle fibers, which is ultimately how we get the adaptation of muscle growth. So we're gonna jump up 5 of those. We're gonna immediately hop into a pullover. Again, you can see the weight is relatively light. I'm focusing really here on full extension, stretch those lats, and then squeeze, squeeze, squeeze as hard as we can in the bottom to get a really good contraction. So this is gonna be a really tough movement for 5 reps. And then again, we're kind of getting into a drop set, working a lighter movement for a couple more reps, really kind of pushing that muscle past failure. So chin up position, palms facing towards us. We're gonna jump up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, full extension on the way down and reset, up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really targeting the biceps in this grip as well. Last one. Fight, 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 fight. Full extension. And then we're gonna hop over here. So really tough movement, and now slight hinge at the hips, really driving at those palms. If you've ever been like a swimmer before with your stroke, imagine it, we're pushing the water back. That's the idea here. If you're feeling this in your triceps, it means you're doing something wrong. So drive down again. I almost like to grip the cable like this, kind of in the crease of my thumb and pointer finger. And then imagine that I'm driving those hands backwards and squeezing that back. Nice and slow on the way out. Squeeze. Again, I'm not feeling anything in my triceps here really. This is all lats. All right, you guys. Again, same thing here. 3 sets, shooting for 5, nice and slow here. Now we're gonna bang out 10 over here, keeping the rest intervals minimum. 46 minutes in, we're at like 427 calories. So again, working our muscles, that's including a full warm up, a little chatting, a little bouncing around here because we're filming a video for you guys. So you get a lot done in a little bit of time. You'll notice these will get a lot harder. And by set number 3, you're gonna be really struggling on the way down to fight that. If you don't have Again, space is a premium here, so we don't have the tallest rack in the world. If you guys need, if you're at a gym and you can't jump up or it's a little too high, you can use like a box or a dumbbell. You can step up onto it and then you kind of jump up from there and then go, just if it's a little too high for you. So an option there for you. Hopping right into this immediately, no rest, drive, squeeze. Last 3. On these last reps, you really want to, same principle, slow, slow, slow. Ooh. Slow. 5, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Whoa. All right. Set number 3 coming up. It's one of the things, usually I would hop right in to the next set, the next round. With these, the muscle fatigue is so real, so we kind of give ourselves a second. All right, you guys, last one. 5 reps here. Spring up, hold, and then 5, 2, 1. Like I said, 3rd set, I'm really struggling. I'm gonna try my hardest on this last one to go as slow as possible. Yeah. Whew. The same way again, as we slowly go out, we're working those lats. Same way as we slowly go out, really eccentrically loading the bicep. All right, we're gonna share that last exercise with you guys, working the biceps and some mobility. I know you heard that right. We're just gonna grab a quick drink of water first. So like I said, guys, working mobility and the biceps. So what we're gonna do, feet shoulder apart, palms are gonna go in front of us. We're gonna sit in this deep squat position. So as you can see, working some mobility in the ankles, in the hips, keeping that low back, nice and flat, and that chest crest up. But because our arms are kind of situated in between our legs like that, this is gonna almost act as like a preacher or a concentration curl. So completely gonna eliminate any possibility of swinging, really concentrate on a good contraction of that bicep, again, while getting full in that deep squat position. If you can't get into this position, that's an indication that you need to work on some mobility. So squeeze, 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 slow, full extension of those arms, squeeze. I love that movement. That is one of my favorite movements. So again, I feel like it's such a good arm exercise. And again, it's a really good way of like seeing where you're at mobility wise. A lot of times you'll see people when they kind of get in that deep squat position, they'll be super hunched over. If you really lack that ability to flex your hip, or there's a lot of restriction there, naturally, again, that low back is gonna have to round to compensate for that lack of range. So that's why it's so important to open up the hips, open up the thoracic spine, because ultimately, if you think about it, if from here to here isn't moving effectively, and if the hips aren't moving effectively, what's left to compensate is usually the low back. I can't preach it enough, you guys. The more mobile you are, the less likely you are to get injured, the more capable you're gonna be. Naturally, my neighbor just started snowblowing his driveway, but it's good because we're almost there. Beautiful, one more set. And it's funny, as I said to you guys, like when I first started, feeling super sluggish, feeling super tired. The last thing I wanted to do was train. Now that we're almost done, I feel like I'm ready to tackle the day, ready to take anything on. Basically, I'm gonna cruise through the rest of the day, power through, and we're just gonna prioritize early to bed tonight, because like I said, we gotta go back on shift tomorrow. Instead of sleeping here in the morning, waking up at 11, 12, being up for a couple hours and having a hard time going back to bed, I can guarantee you when I go to bed tonight at 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm gonna be out like a light, and we're gonna be up early tomorrow around 5:15. Probably gonna do a little session on the bike before work tomorrow, and then cruise right into that Sunday. So this is kind of how I set myself up for success, especially coming off shift, and I can't recommend it enough. So one more set here to finish. Sounds like my neighbor is grinding stones with his snowblower currently. So it's a good day. We got her done for that idiot. And just like that, we are done. So that's a wrap on today's session. I hope that gave you guys some insight as to what a day looks like coming off shift, how I try to optimize, wakefulness and my performance through the day, and ultimately set myself up for a good night's sleep tomorrow so we can wake back up and do it all over again. Like the board says, we gotta make sure we're fit for duty, but fit for life as well, and prioritizing your days off is where that starts. So if you guys like this information, if you want to find out more and learn more about first responder, functional fitness, training, be sure to subscribe, and we'll check you soon.